This is the Flavor of Leadership podcast. I am your host, Clint Hoops. Together, we explore the unique blend of leadership wisdom that helps top leaders consistently achieve work goals, develop personally, and find fulfillment with family. Let's get started. This is episode number 49. Back 40 episodes ago, in episode number 9, we discussed the importance of doing a weekly review in order to hit your goals for the year. So back then, it was the beginning of 2021, and we were talking about if you wanted to actually hit your New Year's resolutions or your annual goals that you have, that you need to do a weekly review, some way of reviewing your goals so that you can hit them. And we talked about how a goal without a plan is just a wish. So if we want to make our goals a reality, we got to do something about it. And what better way than reviewing our goals and our progress consistently throughout the year? So these reviews have been pivotal for me to stay on track with both my short-term goals and my long-term goals and priorities. So right now, we're coming up on another time of year. We just ended the third quarter of the year. And depending on what business you're in, that may or may not mean much to you. It may just be that quarter end is the same as any other month for you in your job and in the way that you measure things. But for many others, they have goals, key metrics, and even incentives that are measured on a quarterly basis. And so quarters mean something to a lot of people. Quarters are also extremely convenient, nice way to break up the year. So even if your business doesn't measure a lot of things on a quarterly basis, it could be a great time to review. Often a quarter is long enough to see a trend during the year, but not so long that you don't have time to make some adjustments and change, right? Sometimes a month is too soon. And so the quarter can actually help you see a little more of trend. And so we just ended the third quarter, like we said. And so the end of the third quarter also signals the beginning of the fourth quarter. And the fourth quarter is the last quarter of the year. And so because of that, it really just signals our last few months, the last sprint, if you will, toward the end of the year and the beginning of the next. So this is our chance to make a difference on our annual metrics. These last few months are what we have. And so we need to be intentional about being able to hit those goals. And so perhaps you're looking at your goals that you set at the beginning of the year, and maybe you've already accomplished your annual goals. If so, well done. Well done. But if not, maybe you set your goals extremely hard and it is going to be nearly impossible to complete them at the end of the year. Still, in both of these cases, reviewing these metrics, reviewing these goals, and making and seeing realistically where you're going to end up and what you can do to still impact things in a positive way can only benefit you. So, as just like in your business, this last quarter is your chance to hit your annual metrics. It's also signaling a chance for the last few months of the year to help you accomplish your personal goals as well. So any annual personal goals or New Year's resolutions or anything that you set, this is the time to help kick it up a notch and hit those goals. So do you have a formal method of reviewing your quarterly results or your quarterly progress on goals? You know, a chance to see how you did in the last quarter or even year to date on your metrics for work? Probably pretty likely that you do for work. Maybe the formal method is something you do with a group of other leaders, or you do it with your team. But do you do a personal review yourself on where you stand with those metrics? How about personal goals, personal development? Just like we said earlier, this is your chance to push to hit those. Do you have a formal way to check in with yourself to see how you're actually doing on accomplishing your personal goals and becoming the person or the leader that you decided you wanted to become in the past when you set those goals. So having a quarterly review is a great chance to do that. Now, a quarterly review is much, much less tactical than a weekly review. So my weekly reviews are focused on accomplishing items that week. And so I'm looking toward, okay, what is the top priority? How am I doing toward my goals? And what are the tactical items I need to do right now? Next steps. Whereas my quarterly reviews are much less tactical, way more strategic. I'm looking at the overall strategy, the overall vision of what I want to accomplish in my company, what I want to accomplish with my people. And that's the chance that I have to review those things. How am I doing? Am I still pointing in the direction that I intended? Or am I beginning to wane and go a different way, even if it's just small? So think about this. If the people you lead were asked about the direction of the company you envision, right? So the direction in your mind, what are you envisioning? What do you see? And if you were both asked what that looked like, would their answer be the same as yours? If it's not clear to you, it will most certainly not be clear to them. Perhaps you feel like you have portrayed that vision quite well to everybody, but you'd still be nervous that they would know the direction or be on the same page with you. If that's how you feel, which many of us are, that's how it is. This is the time to review this for yourself and to make strategies. Get clarity on what you need to do yourself to get clarity, because maybe you don't have clarity. But once you get clarity, then you can make a game plan during this time so that you can help ensure everyone else is also on the same page with that direction. So we're all going in the same direction, working on the things that are most important for our next step and our next opportunity. So, quarterly reviews. My quarterly reviews involve review my progress at work, just like I said. Many of the items are focused on my career, my work, and my progress on those goals. But another large chunk of this meeting, because this meeting is about me and my progress as a leader and my progress as a person. So I also go through other items in my life, the ones that are most important to me. And I review my progress on those because I have very specific goals in each part of my life. If it's important to me, I set a goal so that I can make sure to accomplish it and make progress consistently. So I always review my progress on specific goals, working toward improving my commitment to God, to self-improvement for myself. I have goals around marriage between me and my wife, making sure that we have a strong relationship and that we're intentional about it, intentional about working to improve that relationship. There are way too many things in life, way too many things that can stress us out, way too many things that can cause a marriage to struggle. So we have intentional goals with each other to make sure that we're on the same page and focused. Same thing with our family and our children, as well as friends. I have goals around those things to make sure that we're getting the balance we need in life, as well as physical health and even hobbies. And so these are some of the things that I review during my quarterly reviews. See where I'm at so that I can get intentional about each of these areas so that my life stays in sync. Of course, from time to time, one area will require more attention than others, and that's okay. But during this review, it's a chance to call it out, say what it is, and then refocus once again, and then make conscious decisions on what area I need to spend the most time on. And then during my weekly reviews, I continue to focus on those things, see how I'm doing. So that's how I do it, right? And there's no single right way to do these reviews. But the key is to just schedule one and start now and review the last quarter. You will find quickly where you need to work harder, how you can get more clear on your goals with yourself, with your team, with your family, in each of these areas of your life. So one of the first times I heard about doing these reviews was quite a long time ago. I was still late teens, I think it was, and someone had said to do a weekly review and an annual review and a quarterly review, and honestly, at that point, I thought, well, that sounds like a good idea. I remember writing it down and thinking, okay, and I remember even going home and sitting down and like kind of writing, okay, what would I do for a weekly review, and I didn't feel like there was much in my life to plan, and so honestly, I didn't really did it. I did it a couple of times, and I'm like, well, I'm not really accomplishing much. I didn't feel at that time, and so I just stopped. I kind of forgot about it, frankly, until a few years later. I was a young leader, and I ran into a man by the name of Michael Hyatt. So he's a fantastic business leader. I've shared a few things from him in the past. And so I don't remember, honestly, whether I originally found out the idea of this in one of his books or in a blog or a podcast, but I remember him talking about, or I remember reading about these reviews, weekly review, annual review, and this quarterly review. And honestly, at that point, I was reminded, I said, oh my goodness, I need to do this. And I love the format that he gave. You know, he helped kind of set up very similar to what I've shared with you above. And these reviews began to transfer the way I focus and prepare. And so Michael Hyatt, I actually have a little link in the show notes to a little description he has about quarterly reviews. But in that little section that he shares, he says this on one of his blog posts from years ago. It says, if you want to start doing a quarterly review, I strongly suggest that you schedule these far, far in advance. Mine are scheduled 2 years out. If you wait until you have a break in your schedule, you'll never get to it. You have to make appointments with yourself and schedule other things around it. This is the key to proactive self-management. I love that. I agree wholeheartedly in this recommendation. You need to schedule these out. It's like the whole saying says, what's scheduled gets done. I believe that. I often make appointments with myself and don't let people schedule in those times, because if I determine something's a top priority, I need to treat it as such. And so, because it's really tempting, right, to be super flexible, because especially if you're a people pleaser type person, you want to make sure that's convenient for them. And so you begin to schedule over this time that you've allotted for yourself, whether it's a weekly review or a quarterly review, and you start missing out on this important time with yourself. So let this meeting with yourself be prioritized. Don't let it get pushed around. You're going to have to fight to make this happen, but I promise you it's worth it. And you may be thinking, 2 years out? That's nuts. That is so far out. All right. If that's too far for you, that's fine. Go ahead and at minimum, when you're in your current quarterly review, schedule the next one, right? At minimum, schedule the next one. It's 3 months out. If you don't schedule at least that far out, the time will get taken from you. So go ahead, schedule it out, and make it happen. Michael recommends getting out of the office for this review so you can avoid phone calls, drop-in visitors, other interruptions. That is something that I also do on most of my reviews, right? It doesn't happen every time, but most of my quarterly reviews, definitely my annual reviews, I make sure that I am out of my normal office. There's something different about getting out of your normal office, your normal desk. It not only helps with the interruptions, but there's something about the mindset change. Being in a different place can often help you focus on this new task and not get distracted by their common interruptions. So now is the perfect time to schedule your first quarterly review, right? The quarter just ended. Quarter 3 just ended. Go ahead and do a review of last quarter. And if you're not exactly sure what to review, use this time to establish that for yourself. Review the metrics you do have. Maybe there's other things you want to add, other things you're going to measure during this quarter. That's great. Go ahead and do it. Maybe since it's such short notice, you don't have time, like I said, to schedule an entire day for this first one. That's all right. Take a few hours to consider some of these things. And then, like we said earlier, schedule the next one now and make sure that you're ready for your next quarterly review. You got this. Until next week. Thanks for joining me on this week's episode of the Flavor of Leadership podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard, please share it with a friend. And if you haven't already, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast player. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback for us, you can reach me directly at flavorofleadership.com. Thanks for listening.